Jen, Jen, wait a minute, Jen, why are you in the computer, Jen? Where are you, Jen?
Eh, I'm not really sure, to be honest. I mean, I'm not very um aware of, my surroundings at the moment. So I'm not really sure where I'm at, to be honest. I mean, I could be anywhere.
And that is
Uh,
exactly the amount of information we want people to have.
right. Yeah. I'm
Um,
like, I don't know. I keep asking people and everybody keeps saying like, different places. So I think that I'm just like in a different universe somewhere because I mean, everything that I knew before just doesn't exist. So,
there you go.
yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
If you guys have been by the way, the Unruly Duo is back after a break. And if you've been following Jen on Instagram, you might know why. She has been posting from a new location, an undisclosed location, for like a week and a half, I guess, maybe a little bit longer than a week, because Jen has moved. And we're going to talk about that a little bit, and also just kind of talk about the Jiu-Jitsu community and some of the issues that Jen has seen in it, and her experiences in it. So I'll start us off, Jen, by saying I remember asking you as you were packing up on the day you left, and we were both trying to hold it in and not cry for each other. I remember asking if you were excited, and you said, I don't really know how I feel at the moment. So kind of as much as you'd like to share about what this process has been like in the last week, um, you can start from there. You can start from wherever you'd like.
um, yeah, I mean, it's been, uncharted territory. And it kind of happened. It happened so fast. It felt like I was at your house for like 10 years, right? Like a whole decade. And then all of a sudden it was like, you know, things started happening, speeding up. And then the next thing I'm living this whole new life again. And so I think it's not that it happened so fast, like it was planned, right? But once it was planned, it was like if I felt like things started to speed up.
I agree. No,
you
I would
know,
agree. And I remember, you and I talking through a low moment when you were still living here. And by the way, just in case anybody, Jen did not actually live here 10 years. She's saying she felt like it. It was about
it felt like 10 years.
felt
Yes.
like 10 years. It was about
Yeah.
6 or 7 months, give or take. I remember you and I talking, and you kind of being like, this could take years, and me going, yeah, it could.
Right.
And like that, we were having one of those kind of conversations, like just really like this, neither one of us wanted the position you were in, obviously you more so than anybody, and thinking it was going to take a long time to get back on your feet, because my house at the time was the safest place you can be, but it was also in a place where you couldn't get back on your feet really easily. There's not a lot of jobs around here. Even service jobs like DoorDash and those sorts of things, it doesn't make a lot of income. So though you were applying for any job you could, even though you were dashing whenever you could, you weren't able to gain a ton of ground. Um, and then we together made some sacrifices and some decisions, um, uh, tap some resources, and once that happened, it really snowballed really quickly. I think to the surprise of both of us. I know for me, even though once we kind of figure out like, okay, now we've got the resources to do this, I didn't expect us to be able to execute it as quickly as it did. I don't know, how did you kind of feel about that?
Yeah. I think that that's what I'm trying to say is like the execution of it happened so quickly because, I do remember um the the talk that you were talking about. And, I was so depressed that day. And I was
Right.
just like, I I don't see a way out of it. Like I couldn't. I was like, I do not see how I'm going to get, I don't know how I'm going to get my life back. And if I do get my life back, is going to be like this miserable, you know, state of existence that, um, that would be just unfair, given the circumstances of what happened to me. Because what happened to me wasn't fair. And I
Agreed.
didn't deserve for this to happen to me. And to have to, I think sometimes, when I have, a hiccup or a roadblock, or I'm trying to get something done, or I just, well, I don't have this and I don't have that. Like, there's part of my anger and frustration comes from that, that's still lingering control over my life, right? This thumb that has been on top of me for um, 17 years, and I'm still having to claw my way out of all these little sabotages that I've had to endure, you know? And it's frustrating. But, you know, once I flew the coop, right? I, you know, there was a lot of emotions going on because I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to cry. So I'm gonna be strong today. But I want to. But you know, you guys became family to me.
100, we are family. You are family.
Right. Right. Your husband, the dogs, your parents, and you guys welcomed me in a way that um no one really has, except for my best friend Shan. Right. And I leaving was that was hard. Right. Yeah. It was just hard leaving because through all the devastation, right? And then I get this like little piece of something that I've always longed for in my life, which is just a family. And although I have a family, um, it was
Not by my opinion, you don't. Sorry, I can cut
no,
that
I
off.
don't. I mean, I grew up with
Not
these
the way they've
people.
been behaving.
Yeah, these
Hey, I'm
people that
sorry, like, you
hated
guys
me.
aren't allowed, you're not allowed to be her family anymore. We're her family. You guys suck.
Well, they hate me. So, I mean, um, I grew up being hated by my family my entire life, and so, leaving that and um, you know, the dogs, and it was almost like leaving a part of me, right? Because I knew I want to cry.
It's alright.
Mhm.
We got space. If you want me to cut anything out, I will.
No, it's okay. I think I'll hold it. I think I can make it. I'm getting ready to start my period, so I'm a little bit, weaker than usual. But um, it was like I knew that this leaving there, that I would never be the same. Like, I've gone through so many deaths and rebirths in my life, and this one was by far the 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 greatest, on you know, a scale of whatever magnitude. And I just the contrast of, you know, being stuck in this place, although I was safe, I've been, I mean, it felt like, the saying when people are like, why don't you go crawl in a hole and die? That's what it felt like. That's what it felt like. Right? Which I know that that's what these people wanted. They wanted me to go, crawl in a hole and die. And I went and I crawled in this hole, and I felt like I was dying. Like, I felt like, I mean, I wasn't exercising. I wasn't doing anything that was, you know, getting me any further in life as far as, forward movement. And it wasn't your fault. It wasn't my fault. It was the circumstances, right? Like there was just nothing that I could do. And I never thought that I would make it out of there and out of all of this. And to go from not only that place, that hole, um, but back out into the world and having, a safe place to live. And I say safe because I'm far enough away that um, if they tried to stalk me or harass me or track me here, um, they can get in a lot more trouble, and I can get the authorities here involved, and it will be escalated because they can't influence the authorities here. Um, so that makes me feel more safe. The place that I'm at makes me feel more secure. And because of that, I am just I'm able to actually come back into the world. Right? Like I think I mentioned it to you the other day. What I said, I feel like life is real again,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Because I wasn't participating. I
Right.
wasn't participating in the world because I really couldn't. I was being watched and monitored until about, I don't know. I think it stopped about a month and a half ago. So it hasn't really been that long. And so also having that freedom of, not feeling like I'm being spied on at every single moment, and I can, have my own privacy and agency back, my autonomy. Like and then it all just happened at once, and so it's been a quite the roller coaster of emotions, you know, leaving you guys, having this brand new life I never thought I'd have, and then sitting with that. I had a couple of days where, it hit me hard, like, especially my family and what they did to me. Like, that hurt. And, I haven't really sat with that because it's a very, very, very deep wound. And I was finally able to sit with it, and I think that I'm finally at a place where I can sit with the things that happened to me and actually process them instead of just, you know, going through the motions. You know what I mean? Because I'm just like, I don't, what do I, I'm just like, I felt like I was just spinning my wheels. And now I have a place that I can sit and process, you know, the things that I lost, right? Not just what I went through, but the things that I lost. And then also the abuse that I endured by, how people treated me, you know, before, during, and after the all of it. Um, so it's been a lot, but I do feel like I'm able to heal at a faster pace, you know?
Agreed. Yep.
And for me personally, I really I actually do uh well in solitude, right? But it gets to a point where it's like it's unhealthy.
For anybody. For any,
Right?
even though I'm an introvert, I spend a lot of time by myself or just me and my husband, but you still have to we're still social creatures, and even those who are more prone to introversion or solitude still have to get out and function with the world to feel normal. Um,
Right.
I get
Yeah.
it. Yes. It can absolutely go on to an unhealthy extent if you let it.
Yes. Yeah. And even though I was around you guys, that was very helpful. But it was a very small town. I stuck out like a sore thumb.
Agreed.
And so like going places wasn't like the most comfortable. And you know, where I'm at now, nobody knows me. I don't have to worry about anybody running into anybody that I know or anybody recognizing me. So going out and about is like um it's just a different feeling. Because even when I was living with you, right, they were stalking me there. And so they knew where I was at. And so that was another kind of barrier for me to leave the house because these people have my address, they know where I'm at, they know where I live, you know? And so,
With help, from your family,
right.
again, on that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
My family gave them my address during this time. And so,
Something
you know,
I'll never forgive them for, because that's my address. So they not only put you in danger, they put people they
your whole
don't
family.
know. I don't know your family personally. My husband doesn't. My dogs,
Right.
in danger as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, and so, I really, I've been going out, you know, out of the house and, going places like, the grocery store and walk around the block and things like that. Walk around the compound. But I'm not ready to I'm not ready to socialize, you know, like um I love going to, taking myself out to eat or going places by myself or whatever. But the thought of just going into a restaurant by myself and having to just navigate socializing with people. And I don't know if it's because I haven't done it in so long or if it's because I don't see the world the same. And so I feel like interactions are so much harder for me now because I've had to deal with, gang stalking to where I've had to, you know, basically screen every person that I encounter in my
Everyone's a
brain.
suspect.
Everybody's a suspect, right? And so I don't really know, I haven't pinpointed that yet. But I'm getting there. Um, and I'm working out again, like at the gym, which has been a lot of fun, actually. And yeah, it's just been, you know, getting better every single day. So yeah.
Um, I I kinda wonder, so if people haven't gathered, Jen moved to a place she has never lived before,
Hmm.
potentially Argentina.
Right.
Um, and do you think, so getting back to what we touched on of, where you were living, where I live is a really small rural community, not a ton of options or opportunities, not a big social ways to be social or interact with people. Do you do you feel like it was necessary, but you had also lived in a city in our state. You had lived there that's where you fled from, was a city. Do you feel like you could have gone back to that city and gotten back on your feet, or do you feel like, no, it had to be somewhere new and different, out of state?
Um, I think if I would have moved back to the same city, um, I wouldn't have felt safe. I would have been, looking over my shoulder constantly, because I'm just getting, you know, closer to the people that did this to me. Also, you know, it, it was humiliating, right? I was humiliated. And to go back to, my the city I fled from, having to go to the grocery store and I run into someone I see and they're like, "Oh, hey, Jen," and I have to talk about like the thought of having to do that over and over and over and over again is I probably wouldn't leave my house because I want to run into anyone that I knew. And then, like, the last couple times that I visited, I mean, when I'm, like, in the grocery store or walking up, I would put my hood on, right? Because 'Cause I'm with my hair, I'm very recognizable. And so, I don't think that I would have been able to flourish, especially mentally. Now job-wise, I mean, DoorDash, server jobs are, um, plenty there, and you can make a lot more money. Yes, but, going back to that place, I thought about it, but when I actually really thought about it, like put myself back there, it didn't feel good.
Can you talk about if you if you don't mind sharing, can you talk about when what you mean when you say you were humiliating? What felt humiliating about, what you were going through?
So, it was humiliating because I was being dismissed in a way that made, well, people didn't believe me. They were calling me crazy, mentally ill, saying that I was in psychosis. I'm being bombarded, which this is part of like the gang stalking program, whatever you want to call it, um, system is they have these gang stalkers attack you online. And so I was not only, was no one coming to help me, nobody was contacting me, nobody was checking in on me to see if I was okay. Um, I'm getting bombarded with people telling me, you know, have you taken your meds today? You need to go to the mental hospital. Um, you need to get help. You should be ashamed of yourself. Like telling me, like, all these awful things while I'm being hunted by a group of people and being in slow motion, right? Because that's what stalking is. It's premeditated. And that's what people don't understand about stalking. And so I'm in this very hyper vigilant state and I'm not myself. And I'm making, but given the circumstances, I was able to, collect evidence, vent it cleanly and in a grounded way, right? I put on a banana filter, right? That kind of, people, because they already had these preconceived notions about who they thought I was. And so when I put on that banana filter, they were like, "Oh, this girl's lost it." So then they turned the sound off. They stopped listening to me. And, I just felt like everything that I did, even like with my shaved head, everybody's like, "Oh, she's crazy. She's mentally ill. She's this, she's that." And blah. So people treated me as though everything I said was a lie, right? And like that's embarrassing. I mean, I don't know really how to explain it. It's humiliating. To put yourself out there over and over and over for people to just, throw tomatoes at you, right? Because that's what was happening.
And
They're
I
like,
guess the
"Boo, this girl, get off stage, boo, we don't want to hear you." That's what it felt like. And so that was the humiliating part.
I just wanna reiterate, I certainly am not trying to put salt on a wound, is I'm so flabbergasted that you and frustrated and annoyed and angry for you that the feelings of humiliation were put on you somehow to feel and hold, like, this was something you should feel humiliated by when it was people, like, harming they should be the humiliated ones that they're participating in such a cruel act against another human being.
Yeah. Yeah. They were putting the shame on me, right? Which is, you know, it's typical behavior uh, from toxic people, right? Toxic people and uneducated people tend to victim blame, right? And so instead of looking at themselves and saying, "Oh, not first of all, how could I help?" Right? That was never in anyone's mind, even if they thought I was mentally ill. Like how can we help her? Like the people watching me. I mean, it also felt like nobody cared, and it blew my mind because like I personally could never, ever watch someone post what I posted as I was going through it and not say anything or check in on that person or see how I could help them, especially if I knew them personally. Like that part, I don't understand because, through the research that I've done, the people that I've found online, when I see them posting things, like I feel compelled to, I'm like, I wish I could help them. Like, I wish there was more that I could do because if I was in a position to do so, I would. And I think that's hard for me to, that's why I can't understand why other people wouldn't. Right. Now, there are people that did, but there is I've been in jujitsu for 17 years. Okay. And I, you know, I know a lot of people in jujitsu and a lot of people in jujitsu know me, right? And not a single person from the jujitsu community. right, came to help me, with the exception of two, three, right, that were my students in the past, women students in the past, that I have had, long standing relationships with. And they helped me out the best way that they could.
100%. And and actually what you even key on there is, and that kind of leads us into one of the other things we wanted to talk about today, is something that you've been talking about a lot online, is where you're seeing the pain. It's coming from a place of pain and personal injury, of where you're seeing the lack in leadership, because even the people in the community that came forward were not leaders in the community. They were students of your own who have, they in I've and our wonderful people, and to your point, helped out however they could, whenever they could, continue to help out however and whenever they could. But I think what you're talking about when you say the community, you're talking about the leaders, the people who have the associations, own the gyms, the fellow teachers, the fellow infrastructure, and how none of them came to help. And I'm just I anybody who's followed for more than 5 minutes knows that I'm obsessed with cults, right? Like, and I'm constantly bringing our conversations back to cults because, unfortunately, jujitsu people, I've watched a lot of cult documentaries and read a lot of cult blogs and listened to a lot of cult podcasts, and all your shit is exactly like all the cult shit that I see all the time.
Mhm. 100%.
And so I was wondering, if you could kind of talk, because listen, you have a perspective. You came up through the system really, like, you didn't have a pedigree. There wasn't anybody in your family that did jujitsu. You stumbled into it,
Yeah.
really,
Mhm.
and became a leader in the community. You're one of the few women black belts in the state that I live in, that you used to live in. You were one of the first women to be accredited under a certain association's women empowerment program. If I remember correctly, you were part of a gym who was one of the first to get accredited for the bullyproof
Yeah,
program.
it's that all follows under the umbrella of the Gracie University, which originally was the Gracie Academy. Yeah, I was one of the first female certified uh, instructors for the Gracie University, and also one of the first women empowered instructors for them
Right.
as well.
So, so, and I think, and we've talked about this a little bit, but I think I did not realize actually until recently that one of the things that you were so frustrated about is that you thought you you assumed that these people who were leaders in the community, this community that you'd been part of for so long, would be there to help. And is it fair? Like, have you heard from any of them?
Not a peep. No.
Not a like
Uh,
on a post, not a DM,
no.
not a
Nothing.
sorry you're going through this.
No. Not a, "Hey, are you okay? Is there anything we can do to help?" No, nothing. And, actually, when all of this was going when all this was happening, I was still certified under the Gracie University. I was a certified Gracie Jiu-Jitsu instructor during this time. My instructorship expired in January. I went through the program again in the beginning of 2024. Um, and became certified again. And, one of the reasons why I ended up choosing their association was because it was all I knew. I've been teaching it for, at that time, I think, I don't know, a long time, 12, 13 years, right? I believed in the programs, loved the programs, and I lived those programs. And I felt at the time that I needed to be in an association. And there was no one else out there that fit me, right? My style of jujitsu, as a woman, my style of jujitsu going into the competition world, it clashed. Um, it was, I knew that I knew that it was going to upset some people that I went back to them, right? Specifically, my ex jujitsu coach, right? Because we were at one time a certified Gracie training center. He had a falling out with them. I didn't have a choice in the matter. We had to leave. I was a women empowered instructor at the time, and I just loved that program and I loved teaching it. And I had to quit. I had to quit teaching it under their umbrella. And so I didn't get to continue my education in that program as well. Um, and so, you know, when I went to, I moved to South Padre Island. And one of the reasons I moved to South Padre Island was because my life was constantly getting sabotaged, right? And I was being stalked. And so I moved away. And down there, I started teaching, Gracie Jiu Jitsu. And I was, a lot of what I was teaching, people had never seen before. And, it just made a lot of sense to them. And I was able to get women to come in because, that's one of the reasons why I believed in the program so much is because it does suit women better. And there's no other programs out there to my knowledge. And I also thought in the back of my head that if I do open up my own school, I will be protected. Like that was part of me going with them as well. And also one of the reasons why I thought I needed to be an association if I opened my own school because I knew that I needed protection. And
You just a protection from being watched, from being stalked, from being sabotaged.
yes, yes, from my
And you
ex jujitsu coach. Yes,
right. So you were thinking, okay, if I'm part of this association that I taught under for many years, got certified under, if I continue to teach them or take up teaching them again, have a school that's associated with them because you are now in their association, paying their dues, teaching their curriculum, they would support you as one of their instructors.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then you did that, right? So after South Padre, you had a lot of personal upheaval. You end up back in the city that you were from. You open your own center, and it's a certified Gracie center.
correct.
And when you to be certified and be under their association, universe, whatever, like you pay dues. Is that right?
A lot.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you
you
pay
pay a
monthly
lot of money.
dues. You have to be recertified every. Sounds like you
Two
just got
years.
every 2 years, so you're paying for that.
But, in the so the only reason I moved back to Oklahoma was because my dad got sick. And, I had the smear campaign had already made it to South Padre Island and the environment had already changed. They started to turn on me, and distance themselves from me because that's what happens in gang stalking and coordinated harassment and smear campaigns. And and I just it happened to me everywhere that I went. So I know it wasn't a coincidence. So I was already wanting to go home, right? And then my dad got sick, and I was like, you know what, I should just go back home, So I did, and you know, and then I got certified with the program, right? Um, did all this, like my dad, he passed away 2 weeks after I got home. And it was like right after that, I just started, going hard trying to get certified. I opened up my own school, June 2024. I renovated an entire church, and I ended up having to relocate about a month and a half into that. And I don't know if this is part of the coordinated harassment and stalking. I don't have any connection, but there's, I wouldn't doubt it. But it was in a church. The landlord told me, everything's fine. You should be good. Zoning, it's zoned for residential, but you should be fine. And he's like, I have a lawyer, so if anybody says anything, like you're good. And anyways, we start getting citations and notices on, the door. Take your signs down. Take your social media down. I had to take my social media down, my signs, everything. A month and a half into my brand new business, right? And I'm talking to them during this time. And like, there was, even then, there was no support offered to me, And then around that exact same time is when my best friend Shan, she was coming up there every Saturday helping us. And, someone that I talk to every single day and has been my best friend for 16 years. And she was diagnosed with cancer for the fourth time. And I became her 24-hour caretaker, right? And I was taking care of her 24/7. I would go teach class. I was teaching 3 programs by myself, kids ages 5 all the way to adults. And, you know, I'm selling their geese and paying the dues and, um, you know, no likes on my photos on Instagram as I'm growing, right? No, congratulations, like nothing like that. Um, And then while I'm having to relocate my business, take care of my friend who's dying, and teach all of these classes by myself, right? She passes about 2 months into my business, right? So I opened in June, she passed at the end of August. There was no, I'm really sorry for your loss, like nothing like that. And like I was communicating with one of their, um, uh, I don't know what their position would be called, but a manager or something, right? So they knew what was happening to me. And so I kind of felt in the beginning like I didn't understand why I wasn't being supported. Because like I needed to support, you know, more than most because I'm a woman in the community doing this by myself. And it got too hard, it got too exhausting. I'm grieving my best friend. Then some other things just happened that just weren't aligning with me. And so I ended up leaving the association. And it was like crickets, you know. And I remember going and, you know, seeing them go to my ex jujitsu coach, like his page, and they leave like a heart or something, right? But I didn't even get a like or anything like that. So I really didn't expect much from them during this time. Um, and I think it has a lot to do with the smear campaign that started by my ex jujitsu coach years ago, right? Like years ago. Um, there could be more to it. I don't know. But you know, the they are the pioneers of jujitsu, and to you know everything that I've given to them and done for them in the sense of spreading their philosophies and their teachings and things like that, for them to not you know bat an eye when I'm being can I say on here? I need to bleep it
I'll
out.
probably have to, no, I think you have to do unalived.
Okay.
I think it's just like, I'll probably have to bleep it or something, but unalived.
Right. And it's like they treated this person that not only um, you know, smeared their name throughout the community, but my ex jujitsu coach would smear them publicly out loud. I never did anything like that, right? I've done nothing but you know invest in their programs and their philosophies and things like that, and try to share them and spread them, um, to the best of my ability. And so it is hard to wrap my brain around. I don't know why. I'm like, is it because of my past? Is it because of I'm dancing on a pole? I I don't understand. Given those things, my past, me dancing on a pole, me having a shaved head, when you're a leader in the community and you see a woman that is being stalked and harassed by a group of people who is screaming for help, right? And you do absolutely nothing when you can, like there's no excuse. To me, there's no excuse. And it's not just them. all of the leaders in the jujitsu community, like the big ones are men, right? And I know they saw it. I know they talked to amongst each other about it. I know, like, I know how groups work. And for even the women in the community, that had, a leadership role, that heard my story or saw what was going on with me, that didn't do anything. Like, I don't understand. I don't understand why, but it is very negligent. Um, and, I feel like they are, um, giving people a false sense of community and a false sense of, a lot of people, they call them family, right? And it's like, you know, only for a certain kind of person, I guess, is kind of how it feels. Yeah.
Um, and I think you had mentioned to me, like, one of the frustrating points for you was that you saw other cases where they spoke out on behalf of somebody or supported them in some way, um, within the community. And so that was,
But yeah, I mean, well, not real. Yeah, yes and no. If there was uh, a kid that got bullied in school and went viral, right? They would, take that kid and their family under their wing, fly them out, give them a whole week, and like, give them this whole transformation kind of thing. So they helped people in that way, right? Or women too, right? Women that like if their videos went viral, like they had no problem like helping those people in really great ways. I mean, what they did for those people, it was amazing. Um, but it's one of those things that for some reason it's like social media, right? When you post on social media, it's like strangers are your biggest supporters for some reason, right? It's like the people that care about you, or care about you, or are the closest to you. Like they don't like your post, they don't comment, like they don't share, they don't support, and y- that's something that you should really, really pay attention to, if you aren't, because that was something that my family did, right? Because I would see them like post underneath, comment on other people's, like and love other people's posts. They never ever liked mine, never commented it on my post, and I know they saw them, and so it was because they hated me. They didn't like me, and so that's what that means. And for whatever reason, if you don't want to like me or whatever, that's fine, but don't let me, you know, come to your business and, give you lots and lots of money for, a false product that you're selling me under the guise of community.
and that was, when you just said a second ago, is it your past or something? I was like, they knew you're like you'd been part of their association for years, and the past you're referring to happened years prior to that. They knew that when they were taking your money
Oh,
and
yeah.
letting you be part of the
And
association.
letting me represent them
Right.
as,
So
as an
I
insult.
mean, in a hypothetical situation, if they had an issue with your past, it wasn't enough to stop them from taking your money and represent them to, like you
Oh,
just
yeah.
said. So that doesn't, that falls. And so I think what I'm hearing you say is that, there has been times when they've stepped up and really put a foot forward to help people in dangerous situations, and you were instructor of theirs, had been for many years, in a dangerous situation, and you got nothing, and that's what the frustration is. And do you think, like, so if you had your druthers, right, like jujitsu community as a whole, or the Gracie system in particular, like, where do you see, like, "Hey, guys, this is what I'm seeing a lack of, and here's what needs to change." Do you have any thoughts on that?
Um, like in the the jujitsu community as a whole.
Or the Gracie system in particular, either one, whichever one you would want to.
Um, I so, you know, I was taught through the Gracie system that the white belts are the most important people in the room, right? So in a lot of um, in a lot of environments, and it's because it was um, it was like this for such a long time where you know there was this sense of hierarchy, right? It used to be, don't look black belts in the eye, right? Don't ask black belts to roll, but don't you can't get water, uh you can't drink water during class, things like that, right? But I was taught through the Gracie system and it's and I have never heard any other association or group or any other community talk about it, but they talk about how white belts should be the most important people in the room because they're the most vulnerable. And I wholeheartedly believe that. Um, and I also believe that, you know, you should practice what you preach. And as a jujitsu teacher, you know, if that's going to be part of your life, what we train and what we practice on the mat also bleeds into our everyday life, right? So if you're treating people like that on the mat, why aren't you treating people like that off the mat, right? And they're in jujitsu, right? It's like high school, right? The most popular people are the ones that are winning medals, right? They're the strongest, they're the fastest, right? Um, in the Gracie system, it seems to be like the people that, um, you know, get um, further, faster are the people who have a lot of money, right? Because they can pay to, for all the things, advertisements, seminars, things like that, right? Um, and so it kind of like it you're leaving the white belts in a very vulnerable position all by themselves. And for me, I'm not a white belt, but I'm a single woman in the jujitsu community, right? In a community full of sharks. And I was left alone. And then I was targeted by a group of people and had my entire life destroyed while they all sat and watched. And it was like entertainment to them. And so I just feel like in the jujitsu community as a whole, like everything is flipped upside down in such a way um, that it's it's destroying the art, if that makes sense.
Oh,
Because it
yeah, that's a powerful statement to make. So you're really seeing such a disconnect between what they preach and how they act? That you think
absolutely.
so you just
Yes.
think that it's not
Yeah. Yeah. Because they preach discipline, integrity, respect, right? Nobody respected me, right? Nobody, you know, reached out when I needed help the most. And you know, I think, for women especially, because I personally know a black belt, a brown belt, a black belt, a brown belt. Wait, hold on. One, two, three black belts and a brown belt. Uh, women who have been pushed out of jujitsu pretty much for being a woman, right? Because we are the most vulnerable in jujitsu and we're not being protected. So if we go into environments, into gyms, and we don't feel safe and we're not protected, well, we're going to quit, And that's why I have removed myself from the community. That's why I don't feel safe going anywhere to train jujitsu. And plus, I don't want people to know where I live. Um, and so, um, you know, that is the reason why I'm leaving the community or have left and I'm not training and I'm trying to create my own community and my own way of teaching and guiding women because um, like I've said over and over, like we're not being protected in jujitsu. And I think, if you're going to build a great empire and, you know, have control over all these people, right? Because they have over 250 locations worldwide. Okay. And I've been in that community for close to about 15 years, right? I know a lot of people in the association, and not one person reached out to me. And not one person came to protect me. And it's not just me, it's women in general. And jujitsu is being led by men. Men have been leading the way since the beginning, right? We're just now starting to see, you know, um, women making money on jujitsu, right? Or owning their own schools, or becoming, leaders of any type in jujitsu. And, it's a harder road for us. It really, really is, because we are the most vulnerable ones in the community. And so I just feel like a lot of leaders in the community, mostly men, are not practicing what they're preaching.
Fair enough. I mean, and I think this is a really good segue. One, so yeah,
Oh, I did want to say one more thing about that,
sure,
if I could.
yes.
Um, so the other thing that I haven't really mentioned is that my ex jujitsu coach is a Gracie Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He got his black belt from them. And so I feel like the community was protecting them, protecting him, right? And not only protecting him, but it's like they're um, engulfed in this culture where it's like it's a boys club, right? And this is something that has been happening for a very long time, because I've seen it happen over and over and over and over again. And you know, I really thought, especially, the Epstein files they dropped, like all this stuff. We had the Me Too movement, like all these things that like men would really start like stepping up to it, to the plate, and like educating themselves on covert abuse and reactive abuse and things like that. But they don't even understand what stalking is, right? Like, and that's why these predators continue to be protected. And it has a lot to do with them not being educated. And so I think as a jujitsu black belt, or leader in the community, you're a school owner. You need to understand how predators operate, and you need to understand um, how to help women in jujitsu if you're going to be selling self defense, right? Because what are we trying to defend ourselves against? Predators.
Primarily men, and well, predators, and primarily,
Men.
and most.
Yeah, primarily. Yes, absolutely. And so it's like, to see him be protected by the jujitsu community, and I'm over here, being humiliated, losing everything, giving everyone everything that I have, right? It's just, it broke my heart. It really, truly, truly did.
I mean, it really is devastating to hear. Like, I can just imagine being in a situation where it's just made loud and clear, like, all this time and money and effort I put in, and nobody cares. Like, nobody cares. Like, I'm worthless. Like,
No,
I
I was a
invested,
transaction.
like,
Yeah,
right.
that's
I
that's all
invested
it is.
all of this for literally nothing. I mean, that to me would be devastating. It would be
Yeah,
devastating.
yeah,
And I can see why. I think your point about it's not just you. You were an extreme example. You were put in
yes.
this extreme situation, but that you see other women just being kind of quiet, like a lot of times quietly sort of pushed out. It really does seem like this is an organization that has made it really clear what their priorities are, and it's not true community and true protection and equality, or honor, or any of the other words, catchphrases that you use, and
Esteem, true,
tech,
yeah, truth, integrity.
right. And
Yeah,
it's so, I mean, it's really unfortunate. And one of the reasons, Jen and I obviously talk all the time still, and I said, you've been kind of talking about this on social media, and I want to talk about this here because I think where there are toxic or unhealthy or patriarchal systems, those are the things that we need to talk about.
Yes.
As women, especially. If any men would like to come along and for the ride and have those discussions and be willing to listen and talk, like that's great. But as women, I think it just needs to be more and more um, made aware of. Um, for our own safety and health. I just think that there's too much toxicity and toxic patriarchy in too many systems, and the only way it changes is if we start shining a light on it and saying, we're not, we're not, we're going to acknowledge this. We're going to look it right in the face, and we're going to say what's wrong, and then one thing that I would now like to talk about, and I swear this is not a ham-fisted segue. I'm not, but one of the things I'm super proud about is being part of this new, I don't even want to call it a system, this new community that Jen is creating with the Unruly Temple. Um, and Jen, just kind of share what, like, let's dream for a minute, right? Like, if anybody's been following Jen or myself even, you've seen us mention the Unruly Temple a lot. The Unruly Temple was a website that Jen created here in my house
Wow.
in
Yeah.
her room, um, doing her best to recover from, active gang stalking, having been, becoming dependent on other people for support, and me and my husband for support because her finances had been drained. And she said, I'm going to create this body of work and this offering to other people. And it's kind of grown since then. Um, but like, what is as it stands today, how would you say, like, what are the offerings today? And then let's dream. What do we want it to be as it grows? So start with, like, today you go on to theunrulytemple.com. What are you going to see,
Mhm.
Jen?
So if you go on to theunrulytemple.com, um, you're going to you're not going to see a lot of fluff. You're not going to see any sales gimmicks or like you know tricks to get you to click here, buy here, like buy now. You know what I'm talking about? What do you call those? Sales tactics.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, a bunch of sales tactics, right? You're not going to see any fear mongering. You're going to see just realness and transparency, and you're going to see um, a brand built on not holding back, right? And what I created and what I'm calling now is holistic, right? A WHOLE, holistic, um, is because, for me, one of the biggest things that I've learned about myself is how fragmented I used to be, right? Because I've spread all over the place. And, because I wasn't um, connected to my body or my mind and life all at the same time. Like, how do you do that? Like, you have to shave things off. You have to get rid of things. You have to get rid of people. You have to, do all these things, and you need proper tools to do that. And, you know, I fortunately, through all this, had the time. I had the time, because I sat with myself so much. I'm like, how do I get out of this? I have all these tools because I've been collecting tools for years, years. I am a trauma survivor. I I've been dealing with trauma my entire life, right? If you watch the other podcast before this, I talk more about my past, but I have been collecting tools um, for many, many years, and I have tested everything, absolutely everything. And what I started to learn is a lot of the things that we're taught and told and conditioned to believe, it's bullshit, right? It really is. And it's just people are just packaging things for consumption. And that's not what I'm doing with the Unruly Temple. I'm not going to bullshit you. I'm not gonna coddle you, right? Um, like we're gonna get down to like the nitty gritty parts of ourselves because I think real true healing and transformation comes down to uh like sitting with ourselves, sitting with the most painful parts of life and things that we have gone through. And not many people can do that, right? You can't, especially if you've never walked through the door of recovery from something, right? You don't know where to start. You don't know, how to do it, or, you're in a situation where you're just like, my life is going to be like this forever, right? Because I used to think that before, when I was very depressed and anxious and having panic attacks and night terrors and things like that. I really thought, I'm like, this is just who I am. I'm going to have to deal with this my whole life. And that wasn't true. And so, you know, being in my hole, I was able to create and kind of um, compact a lot of the tools that I have used in the past to um, transmute a lot of my pain. And I was able to package them in a very simple way. And that's why I wrote um, uh, Hidden Harm,
Mhm.
a book to understand and cover abuse, a reclamation workbook, um, or no, I'm sorry, the resurrection workbook. She has risen, and another book called The Alignment. What is it? The Alignment Guide, because everything we're taught is bullshit, right? All three of those, they're completely different, but they are the framework that is going to help you transmute um, a lot of things in your life. And so um, the three together are fragmented, right? But together they're whole. And so that's kind of what we're like, what I'm doing with Unruly Temple is um, bringing together a wellness community to where it's not like a new program every day and this and that and you gotta put this and that and this and that and this and that and this and that. No, like this is what it is. It's wholeness, it's simple, it's easy. And combining all kinds of movement, like you're teaching yoga, right? You have your art and jujitsu, like it's all art. It's an art form, and it's all molded together in a way that is designed to be simple to understand, if that makes sense.
No, totally, and as somebody and I can say, like, as somebody who's you've started to teach me, and I've been fortunate enough to be an assistant in a seminar, what I really found, and I continue to find, and I'm so interested and passionate about, is how a lot of the techniques so you specifically focus on jujitsu and self-defense, women's self-defense and empowerment, those specific movements of how such a simple movement can literally mean the difference of getting yourself out of a dangerous situation. Like, it's not this sorta over the top I don't know, I think and maybe I'm wrong, but, a lot of for lay people who aren't in any sort of martial art, what do we see on TV? We see, like, UFC, or we see, like, martial art movies, and it's, like, sometimes it seems just really big and bombastic, or these really complex moves, or a lot of fanfare, and really what you're teaching
The,
is
s-
not
the, the strong and the fast, right? That's what you
yes,
see. The big, yeah, the
yes,
people that
yes.
don't represent the average everyday people.
Right, and certainly
Yeah,
no women, you rarely see any women in those
right.
environments, and
Yeah.
and what you teach is, like, this is really just practical, it's not there's not, a whole lot of, like, big arm movements and and so and that's also something with yoga, what I'm gonna be teaching is not about any it's really about just feeling good in your body in a practical way. Both you and I are in our midlife, and we understand that, it doesn't matter how much you exercise and how well you eat. Part of aging is your body changes, right? And so you have to think about it in a different way. And so this is yoga about just feeling really good in your body and addressing like you might have you I would be willing to bet that any person who comes to my yoga class probably has a back problem somewhere or tight hips. I would be willing to put money on that. And
Me.
so
Yeah.
like address. So that's what I'm addressing. We're going to be talking about ways so that you can be more mobile, because you being more mobile and being able to understand your body and how it moves, and to keep it fluid is means that when you're 80, you'll still be able to haul your groceries yourself. You'll still be able to walk your dog. You'll still be able to do a lot of things that I see, elderly in my community having trouble with, because they weren't taught those things. And they don't have a good practice, as consistent practice around that. So it's been really, I'm super grateful to just be and I know, Jen, you keep hearing me say this, but it's just to be part of something that I believe in so strongly is really powerful and meaningful.
Yeah.
Because it's also it's it's powerful and meaningful, and also realistic and grounded. And it's not this sort of like aspirational idea, like, well, I'll just like hold hands and sing kumbaya. Like, no, like, we're gonna teach you how to get out of a wrist lock, and then we're gonna teach you to like be able to breathe well, and then we're
We're gonna teach you how to breathe fire.
right, right, and then we're and what you were saying, like, with the holistic idea is like we're creating, everybody's life can be a work of art. Um, and a work of art takes a lot of different elements combined together to make a whole beautiful picture. And so we are taking, like, the way I look at it is we are taking all those parts of our lives, the parts that want to feel grounded and safe and secure, the parts that need to, the parts that feel strong, the parts that feel creative and vulnerable and fluid, and allowing those all to flourish so that it's a whole human.
Yeah, exactly. And I also, like having virtual yoga and virtual um real world skills is what I'm calling it, because it's going to be more than jujitsu and techniques. But being a virtual class, because I also feel like, you know, the the average person is intimidated, especially women, to go into a martial arts facility that's filled with, men. And
You're not
even
wrong.
yoga. Right. And yoga. I mean, a lot of people are intimidated to go to yoga because you go to a lot of these studios, and the yoga culture is, you know, I, I'm I don't even feel bad saying it. They're pretty stuck up. Like I've
That
been to a,
one of they absolutely can be, and there are some super culty elements.
yes,
Super culty elements about
yes, yeah. Um, so it can be really intimidating to go into these places, and so a lot of people just don't. Right? But, if you really want to change your life and, um, you know, transmute your pain into something that um, is beneficial to your life, like you have to do these things. But those things are really hard for people, especially when they're struggling. So the fact that we're doing it virtually is, I think, going to be very helpful. Because for me, um, when I started doing jujitsu, I was an alcoholic and a drug addict. And when I started to get sober, everything that I was numbing came to the surface. I was having panic attacks, anxiety, depression, night terrors. I was waking up screaming bloody murder. And it got harder and harder for me to get to the mat because I was being triggered by jujitsu, right? So I had to learn how to combat that, but I couldn't
made
do
it
it with
harder,
jujitsu. Huh?
right?
Yeah, I
Well, and
couldn't
I
do
can
it with
just
jujitsu. Huh?
it's like a it's just, the thing that's helping you is also like it just made the recovery process harder, because then you're also having to do this hurdle of getting yourself in an environment, when you were feeling, kind of not
Vulnerable.
comfortable even leaving your house, right? Very vulnerable, and then you're
Yeah.
having to kind of force yourself into this environment, and
Yeah.
it's like, I want to learn this
I'm
to make
overcoming
me
drug
better.
addiction and alcoholism and
Right.
like trauma and it's
Yes.
like
Yes, I can imagine
yeah.
how much easier that process would have been for you if you'd had an option to learn some of this at home in a what felt
Yeah.
like a safer environment.
Well, for me, so back then, this was a long time ago, and, this was probably at least 15 years ago, maybe longer, but, I can't remember, but, about it was about 2 years into my jujitsu journey, and, I started, looking up hip stretches on YouTube, and, that's actually how I got into yoga was through YouTube, and so I was actually I mean, most of my yoga practice, I did, at home, right? And I just think that that is just um, a great option for people, especially these days, who are afraid to leave their house for, other reasons, many reasons, and so, but yeah, that's what I'm trying to do with this holistic, wellness for women is just have a place where we can all come together as we are and, work from that place at our own pace, on our own time.
I love it. I love it. And I also like, I wanna get back to dreaming a little bit. I will say that for me, part of my dream is, you and I, we wanna grow the virtual space and have this sort of virtual community, but I also envision, um, physical spaces. Maybe, it could be a dedicated, I don't wanna say storefront, but a dedicated, community space, temple space.
Yeah.
But also, like, I'm excited and I am dreaming of how these seminars that you do could grow. I am excited and dreaming about, like, retreats that we could bring together, half day or a weekend or a day, something
Yes.
like that, and so, um what like, tell me, like, I want this to be a spot where, um, people can hear us dreaming and start getting excited with us. What are you dreaming about the space and what we can do with it?
I do envision, a physical location. Like I can see it. I can see it in my mind. And you know, but a place, a physical place, but also still offering everything virtual. Hopefully, the virtual grows and grows and grows, and we bring in more and more instructors that are women because I want everything that is being taught to women. I want it to be taught by women because men just there are great teachers out there that are men, but it's not the same, right? We can't relate to each other in certain areas of our life, and so you really need a woman's perspective on a lot of things. And so I really do see a big community of women coming together and building each other up, as a network. So if they have businesses, right, those businesses are coming in, helping us with retreats or helping us with the seminars, or we're doing day events where we're promoting this business and that business that is all led by women in our communities. And I think one thing that I'm most excited about is it's going to be the retreats. Because I've hosted a retreat before and it was one of the most magical experiences of my entire life. And actually went to a silent retreat last year that was just, you know, it was just something I've never experienced before that I think everyone should experience at least one time in their life. And like we've had this planned, we postponed it a little bit just because things got too chaotic and scheduling. But um, I would love to have at least one annual retreat a year where women come together and we just exist together in silence. I think that is one of uh, my or that's one of the things that I'm most excited about, I think, is the retreats.
Right. I
Yeah.
love that. And I would just
Yeah.
this is an invite. The reason I wanted to us to dream together in this space is just this is kind of an invite for anybody who happens to be watching if they want to dream with us. Um, there's always links below to where you can follow us on various social media. You can go visit the website. You can and there's offerings currently that you can be part of but yeah, it's for us I think it's really like we're excited about the connections we're making. Well, I don't want to speak for you. I'm excited. I mean, I think you're
No,
excited
yes,
too.
no, I am.
Okay,
Right.
so we're excited about the connections we're making. I think actually that was a really cool point you just made about that. It's not just about um this is women supporting women across kind of multiple levels. Like, yes, there'll be people who might gain something that from what you teach or what I teach. But also like different businesses as we can help support them grow, and they, help support us grow, and then their student base and our student base, and like we all kind of like. So I had a mentor, actually a male mentor, but the one piece it was in business. He was a boss of mine for a long time. It's something I've taken with me in every job I've had, and it's something I take here too. And to me, it is such a simple piece of advice, and it's a common phrase. Plenty of people may have heard. It's a rising tide raises all ships. So in other words, the idea being, and this was in a corporate business environment, like if if this area grows in the business, then this other area will grow too, because the rising tide
It
lifts
all
us
goes
all up. So
right,
so the idea being that like you might be cog number 97, but if you help increase the business or you do a good job, like you're part of raising the tide level for everybody, right?
right.
And
Yeah.
I take that as, and that's a very corporate way, he meant it in a very corporate way, and that's fine and whatever, but I've always taken that to heart across anything I put my mind to. Is like, if somebody comes to one of your classes or one of my classes and they get something beneficial out of it, and then they go have a better relationship, or they are able to heal something in themselves, or then maybe we have a great interaction with another business, and then they maybe gain a client because of somebody we brought to them. And it's like, in so many ways, as I think our focus is, as we rise, as we gain and grow and build this community, it kind of lifts everybody in the community up. Like, that's the idea. Um,
Hmm. Yeah.
and I kind of feel like we're on the same page in
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. No, that's a really great way to put it. Um, yeah, because it's like you don't want to be up here at the top of your castle while everybody's just kind of like,
I think we're
you're looking
tired of the
down on
hierarchy.
us.
We're tired of the hierarchy. We're tired of, like, I
Yeah.
was just flabbergasted when you said that, like, oh, you can't look the black belt in the eye. Like,
Yeah, it used
quit
to be
that.
like that. I'm sure that it's probably there's still some really toxic gyms out there that still do that. But yeah, it's yeah. Oh, there's a lot of really strange things that men have created in jujitsu that are very culty, like you were saying. Like I went to a seminar once that so this it was a school, right? There was a black belt that owned the school who paid someone to be in their association, right? And they hung a picture of that guy on their wall. And they made a room of like 150 people get down on their knees and bow to the picture on the wall to this black belt that lived like, I don't know, somewhere up north. Just a regular guy
That
that
is
looked like. But could
textbook
you
cult
imagine me
behavior.
if there was a picture of me somewhere in these schools and like I made people get on their knees and bow to my picture? Like who who does that?
A
That
cult leader. That's exactly who does it. A cult leader. I
thank
have
you.
multiple examples, Jennifer. Multiple documentaries
Yeah.
and
That's
podcasts.
probably the weirdest thing that I've ever done. But I'm like on my knees and I'm like, we're getting ready to do what? And like everybody bows and I'm just kind of like, I couldn't do it. Like I couldn't do it. And I was like a blue belt back then. I'm like, this is mm-mm. Sorry.
Yes.
One, I'm not bowing to this man, and I'm not bowing to a photo on the wall. I think that was the weirdest part to me. Was like it was just a photo, like an 8 by 10.
Right. Um,
So yeah,
so
none of
yeah,
that
no,
at the
so
unruly
no,
temple. No,
yeah,
we
so
bow to
no
ourselves.
hierarchy. No,
No,
yeah. Oh my God, I love that. We're gonna bow to ourselves.
yes,
That needs to be a t-shirt. We're gonna bow to
we will
ourselves.
make that door. Yeah, I bow to me.
I
Yeah.
love it. I love that.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think that is about all we're gonna chat with you guys about today. Thanks for following along. Thanks for your patience when we took a few weeks off. You know, it's obviously there's been a lot in motion.
Yeah.
And we'll be back.
Moving to Canada has not been easy.
Right. Yeah, we will be back to regularly scheduled programming though. So we hope you guys will come along for the ride. And I'll have all the links below like I normally do. Be part of, raising that tide. There's no hierarchy here. We're all going to be lifting up. And so I hope you guys will join us. And so, yeah, I think that's it for next week for this week.
Yes,
So,
and if you, if you wanna help contribute to, our cause or collaborate, please contact us or go to our donate page on the unrulytemple.com.
heck yeah. Nice plug. Thank you, ma'am. Guys, until next week, we'll see you. Bye.